Hey everybody, welcome back to the Zenith build. In today's video, I thought I would show you my new seats from Flightline Interiors. I'll give you some more info in just a moment about the seats, but this is what they look like. I have this nice diamond pattern in them. They're the perfect color brown, and I also have my control stick boot installed here. Well, I shouldn't say installed, it's just set in place, but that looks good on there. So I'm real happy with the seats. I think they look great. Now, Flightline Interiors also made the seats in my cruiser, but there's a little bit of a difference between my cruiser seats and my Super Duty seats. Now, like I said, both of these seats, the Super Duty and the cruiser, were made by Flightline Interiors, so they're obviously very similar. They kind of have their set pattern and what they do. One thing I did notice is they have this seam here, which accounts for how the seat frame right about here is bent forward. On the Super Duty seats, I noticed they have another one here. My cruiser only has the one, this one has two. And one of the things I asked them to do on these seats was add a little bit more lumbar support down here. So these seats are a little bit thicker on the bottom than my cruiser seats. Now, one of the main differences between the Super Duty seats and my cruiser seats is that I had supplied this material to Flightline Interiors. And if you're going to get seats made probably from any company, but Flightline Interiors, they will send you, little square patches of sample leathers. And I wanted a chocolate brown color to match the Army green. And the only color they had that was close to this, which I still didn't particularly like, but I didn't like the texture of the material. It was exactly like a football. So if you get a football, you can see exactly what the texture is, and that was the texture of their material. And to me, the color wasn't perfect, and I didn't like the texture because it just reminded me of a football. I didn't want my seats to look like they were sewn together from a bunch of footballs. So this material here I sourced on my own, but it is not real leather. It is a fake leather. And I did this for a couple reasons. One is it's extraordinarily less expensive. Two, I figured it would be easier to clean and it would wear better if I'm really using this airplane out in the back country. I have a friend of mine that makes interiors for airplanes, and he didn't have time to do it in here, so I had Flightline Interiors do it. Plus, Flightline Interiors, they already make seats for this, so they have all the patterns. So I still wanted Flightline Interiors to make my seats, but talking to my buddy that makes his seats was just explaining to me that this material wears a lot better than like a real leather or the premium leathers that Flightline Interiors uses. So it doesn't feel as nice, I'll admit that right away. It's not as nice feeling as my cruiser seats because it is a plastic or whatever material it's made out of, but I like the color, I like the texture, and I like the fact that it's just gonna last really forever. And if I happen to get it muddy or dirty, I should be able to just wash it right off. Now here's the other big difference in the two seats. Obviously my Super Duty seat and my cruiser seat. You can see that my cruiser seat is about an inch thicker than the Super Duty seats. And I asked Flightline Interiors to make the bottom cushions thinner than their standard seats, like my cruiser seats. Now these are absolutely perfect for me in the cruiser. The problem is I put the cruiser seats in my Super Duty just to sit in it a while ago, and my head was almost touching the top window. And that is because of the difference in the cruiser and the Super Duty. The cruiser, these seat pans are mounted right on this metal here, right on the frame. And you remember on the Super Duty here, I have the adjustable seats, which raises these seats up about an inch. So that extra inch is what was lifting me up higher and putting my head really close to the top window. So to compensate for the seats that now sit an inch higher than my cruiser seats, I thinned out the bottom cushion a bit. And you can see that difference here. You can see the difference in the thickness of the bottom cushions. And you'll notice these seats also have the pocket in the back. So you can put your logbooks or some rags or your fuel sampler or whatever you want back there. That's really handy to have. I think these seats look great. I like the pattern, the color, the material, and I really like how they go with the Army green. Now for this center console piece, I made them a paper template so that they could get, all these different angles and stuff done correctly on there. And what I'll do is, they've actually got Velcro on the bottom of here, and I'll take that Velcro off, and I'll probably put 2 screws right there, and then 2 screws up front here, and then just secure it to, the center console. But it looks pretty nice on here. It gives it a nice finished professional look, just like the center boot on my cruiser. So again, this is made out of the same material as the seats. All right, well, that's a look at my nice new seats from Flightline Interiors. I love them. All right, so what is next on the Super Duty? Well, in about 2 hours, my buddy Len's gonna come over with all the resin I need to lay up the fairings for the back end here. So left side, right side, this will be done today. Usually takes about a day for it to cure. Then I can rip them off and start finishing those, filling, sanding, cutting, and doing everything that's required to get them actually fit on there. Now speaking of these fairings that go up here, I will show you this fairing that I made quite some time ago. And it's not complete yet. I need to finish trimming it and cutting it and filling it and doing all kinds of work to it actually. But all it does is sit on top here to hopefully just prevent water and stuff from going down in here. This is cut out right here for the elevator control horn that'll go on there. And I may wind up having to cut out more. I may actually cut off this whole bottom piece. I'm not sure yet, but again, I need to finish trimming it, getting it fit, but I'll just hold this on with a couple little sheet metal screws, which would be fine for this. So anyway, I made this fairing a while ago, and hopefully once it's finally installed, it will look good. And it'll also be a little functional, like I said, to keep rain and stuff from getting down in there. Well, after I'm done with the back end there, I think I'm going to move forward slightly and install this top window. Now, one of the other things I've been slowly working on is trying to get this pits back up in the air. And yesterday, I finally was able to match schedules with a real A&P mechanic that came out to take a look at my engine. Now, I was really happy to hear that for as old as this airplane is, he said everything really did look good. Now, there was 2 problems that we had, or that I had with this, with getting the engine to run properly. And the first problem was, after doing a bunch of engine runs and diagnosis, he discovered that 2 spark plugs were bad. And that was accounting for the really massive RPM drop I was getting. So what I did was I actually just yesterday ordered all new spark plugs. Only 2 of them were bad, but I figured instead of replacing 2 plugs, I'm just going to replace all of them. Now the other issue I had with this is when I went to the, I guess the left or right mag, I can't remember, it was just the engine would die. And without going into too much detail, because I am not an A&P, but apparently where this lead goes in down here, where I know you probably can't really see, there's a little spring that's in there, and all he did was kind of take this P lead off, not this one here, I'm not pointing to this, there's one under here. But he took that off, looked in there, put it back in, and whatever he did with that, straightened out that spring, and apparently what was happening is that spring was maybe crooked or bent, and it was grounding out. So that fixed that immediately. So that was kind of nice to have it run on both mags. And then we took care of the engine roughness with determining that the 2 spark plugs were bad. So my new spark plugs are going to be in today. I will put all the spark plugs back in, or replace all of the spark plugs with 8 new ones. And then I'll go out and run the engine again. And I think after that, everything will be fine with the mags and the engine. He did check the timing, and the timing was absolutely perfect, so that's good. Now, the next step for the pits, let's assume the spark plugs cure the problem and everything runs good there. I'm going to take this propeller off and have it rebuilt. There's a good propeller shop actually right up the road from me in Michigan, so I'm kind of lucky there. But this prop has no history with it or no logbooks. And I also noticed that when we did run the engine yesterday, there was a little bit of leaking coming out of here, and the back of the prop was just a little bit wet. So anyway, with no logs and no history of this propeller, I think the safest thing to do is just have it completely overhauled. I think it's around $3,000 to get it overhauled, but to me, that's going to be money well spent. And then after I get my new prop put back on, I can rebuild the whole front of the airplane, and then I'll do a new weight and balance, have an annual done on it, and then the FAA will come out and give it a new airworthiness certificate. Then it's off to PITS training and then the first flight on this airplane. All right, guys, that's it for this short video. I hope you like the seats as much as I do. I'm really happy to finally have them in the airplane. And actually, I haven't even sat in the seats yet or sat in this airplane with these seats because just of the way the airplane's sitting on the sawhorses, I didn't want to sit in here and have the whole thing tip forward. But I'm sure they're just as comfortable as my cruiser seats. So anyway, I'm off to get this fairing done here in about an hour. Why am I looking? I don't have a watch on, but I always look at my wrist. Anyway, in about an hour, we're going to get the fairings done and then start moving on with the Super Duty project.